Today we will be looking at the issue of cyberbullying, and we'll also be speaking to some representatives from the Silver Lining Foundation, which is an organization that works with young people and helps them if they are being bullied, especially if the bullying is related to their gender or their sexuality. To begin with, we would like to speak a bit about cyberbullying. So what is cyberbullying? That is simply bullying with the use of digital technologies, and it can take place on social media such as Facebook and Instagram, messaging platforms such as WhatsApp, gaming platforms such as Fortnite, and mobile phones. It is a repeated behavior that is aimed at scaring, angering, and shaming those who are targeted. Some examples of cyberbullying include spreading lies or posting embarrassing photos of someone on social media, sending hurtful messages or threats via messaging platforms, and impersonating someone and sending mean messages to others on their behalf. And it's important to remember that face-to-face bullying and cyberbullying can often happen alongside each other. So how do we recognize when cyberbullying is taking place? After all, we all joke around with our friends, and sometimes we make mean jokes. And it can be difficult to tell if someone is just genuinely making a joke or they are trying to hurt you. And sometimes if you bring it up, they'll just laugh it off and say they're just kidding, don't take it so seriously, and they may even say that you're the one with the problem. But if you feel hurt when others are laughing at you and you ask them to stop, or if this is something that is happening over and over, then this is bullying. And it's okay to feel upset about it, and it's okay to ask them to stop. Now, we all deserve to be respected online and in real life, and no one should be making us feel badly about ourselves. So if you speak to someone and say this is not okay, you are crossing the line, and they still insist on doing it, they are being bullies. Now, when bullying happens, it can feel as though you're being attacked everywhere, even inside your own home. And it can feel like there's no escape because technology is all around us. It can begin to take a toll on us mentally, so that we lose interest in things that we normally like. We develop low self-esteem, and we even isolate ourselves and do not come out and mix with persons as we are accustomed to. Emotionally, we can feel upset, embarrassed, stupid, even sad or worried. And physically, we can feel tired, we can have decreased appetite, and we can experience things such as stomach pains and headaches. The feeling of being laughed at or harassed by others can prevent people from speaking out or trying to deal with the problems. They may even begin to feel that they deserve this sort of treatment. But I want to reiterate again that this is not true. Now, every case is individual, but there are some messages that I would like you to remember. Bullying is not your fault. There's nothing that you are doing that can justify someone being cruel to you. Please do not respond or retaliate, because this can only make things worse, and sometimes people may believe that you are in fact the one doing the bullying. If you think that you're being bullied, the first thing to do is to try to seek help from someone you trust, whether it's a parent, an older sibling, a friend, a teacher, or a coach at school. And if you're not comfortable with this, please remember that in Trinidad and Tobago, we have hotlines such as Childline on 131 or 800-4321, where you can reach out for help. If the bullying is happening on a social platform such as Facebook or Instagram, you can block the person, and there are tools built into these platforms to try to help with bullying. You can also report the person. Always remember to protect your accounts and do not share your passwords with anyone. This will lessen the risk that someone will be able to use your account and impersonate you to send out negative messages to others. And if you know someone who is being bullied, take action. And this can take various forms, including just giving them a supportive word, going with them to report the abuse, perhaps even speaking to the abuser if you know that person. Please remember that anyone can become a victim of bullying, and we all need to look out for ourselves and our friends. Sometimes the victims of the bullying can feel fragile, and they may really need your support. So speak to them and help them to think through what they might need to say it and to whom. And perhaps they could even practice it with you before they go to speak to the person. But doing nothing can leave the person feeling worse, as they can feel abandoned by everyone, and that's not what we want. Now, parents, I would like to say a few words to you specifically. If your child asks you for help, please know that you are very lucky. A lot of children do not feel that they can speak to their parents about these things. So take them seriously and try to help them as much as they can. Work with your child to understand that they are not at fault, that the fault is with the abuser. Try to understand what is going on from both sides. Of course, when your child comes to you and tells you their side, you will listen to that, but try to find out what's going on from the other person's side, and then try to negotiate a compromise to stop the negative behavior. Take your time and respond thoughtfully. There's no need to rush into any action. And definitely, let your child know that you do love them, you support them, and that you will help them through these issues. What victims need most and what survivors of abuse need most is to be heard and really listened to. That's why if they come to you, it is important to respond thoughtfully and involve them. Just by listening to them, they can often feel a lot better. And solutions are more important than punishment. So oftentimes, persons who are bullying, they are facing challenges of their own, whether it's abuse from other people, whether it's depression, whether it's other stressors. So if you do know the bully, and perhaps you can reach out to them and see what is going on from their point of view. The ultimate goal is to restore the self-respect and self-esteem of your child and to develop greater resilience in them. And one positive outcome we don't think about is resilience, meaning that having gone through this experience, your child can learn that in life there will be times that they have conflict with others, and they will model you using positive messages and positive techniques to deal with these issues. If you suspect your child is bullying others, which of course no parent would like to think about, but it does happen. If you find out that your child is bullying others, investigate fully to find out what is going on and try to reach out to the person being bullied to see how you can make amends or can help. If your child is a part of disciplinary proceedings, by all means be by their side to ensure that they receive a fair shake. So I hope that these tips were useful for you. Cyberbullying is an increasing problem, and it is one that does take a great toll on the victim, but also persons who are doing bullying were oftentimes victims of bullying in the past. So we should also remember that we need to reach out to them and support them as best as we can. A lot of information is available online, so I encourage you to check, to do a web search to find more information if you think that this is applicable to you. We're going to take a short break now, and when we return, we will be speaking with the representatives from the Silver Lining Foundation. My guests today are Dr. Ashram Bisoon and Ms. Renelle White from the Silver Linings Foundation. The Silver Linings Foundation is an NGO which has been around since 2013, and it deals primarily with young people, and it tries to help them with bullying, especially bullying related to sexuality and gender issues. Dr. Bisoon is a medical doctor, and Ms. White is a gender specialist. So I'm going to open the floor to both of you. Why don't you tell me a bit more about the Silver Linings Foundation?
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having us here today on the show and for allowing us the chance and the opportunity to speak a little bit more about Silver Lining, our mission, goals, vision, and also about the importance really of mental health as it affects not only young people but LGBTI people in particular. So the Silver Lining Foundation was founded after a very tragic event in which a young high school boy, George Kasanjian. He committed suicide after being bullied at school. Um, Based on his perceived sexual orientation. So there's a lot of homophobic slurs and bullying and so on. And our executive director, Mr. Jeremy Edwards, he really identified as a gay man with his experiences as a high school student and even after. And he decided to have well, to really start up this foundation for other young people just as himself. So it was founded because of that, and our goals and mission really continued and extended really from being a support system, as you can see here. Um, in the Bagdi Silver Lining Foundation, we operate on three pillars: support, educate, and advocate. So, really, to support young people, to educate not only LGBTI, not only young persons, not only the community, but also the wider society to help them to understand better gender identity, gender fluidity, the experience of LGBTI persons, also as it pertains to mental health, bullying, harassment, all these things that we take for granted living in Trinidad and Tobago. Oh, it's a rite of passage. That is normal. That's how Trini people are. You're going to get harassed and bullied in school. It's fine. It will make you tougher and stronger. When really and truly it wouldn't and it doesn't. And my colleague here, Ashram, he will speak a little bit more about that and the effects that bullying and harassment has on young people, on the mind itself, on mental health. So together with that, we also advocate for the stakeholders, the government, the ministries to really try to adopt a more holistic, understanding, diverse approach to education, to social justice, to raise awareness of these ills, because these are ills in society. Yeah. So the Silver Lining Foundation continues to do so, and we also engage in a lot of activism and advocacy as it pertains to LGBTI rights, LGBTI awareness, human rights and awareness, and really creating that space for persons to feel safe, a safe space, and also for a lot more visibility of the community.
Right. So yes, I was saying, as a medical doctor, I have seen the effects of bullying. Young people, oftentimes they present with depression and anxiety. They can't, they don't feel comfortable in their own skin because of the fear of being judged and being bullied at school, at home. Well, at home, they even at home, their own relatives don't accept them for who they are and bully them. So it's not only about peers bullying them, but even their immediate family.
So, building off what you're saying, I know that the organization actually has done some work with families to help them to perhaps understand these issues and to try to improve their communication. So, Ms. White, could you tell us a bit more about that, please?
Yeah, sure. Thanks so much for that, Ashram. And I know we'll talk a little bit more about that a little later on with the actual experiences in working with, young persons and LGBTI persons from that clinical, psychological, psychiatric level, so to say, right? So yes, we did the Silver Lining Foundation. We had a program called Stronger Families. And as the title says, the goal and mission and the aim was really to create more sustainable families, create a safe space within the home. Of course, building stronger families who would not do, like Ashram said, bully and harass and so on their children, their family members, because of their sexual orientation. So the Stronger Families Initiative, we had 2 cycles. I believe it was 2, yeah. But we have a lot more coming. It is currently being continued, and you all could check out our website, Instagram, Facebook page, because we are on all social media platforms. Check it out to see when the other cycles will run. But basically, what it was a psychosocial support program for guardians and parents of LGBTI persons, young persons. So the aim was really to try to educate and support psychosocial from a psychosocial perspective to educate and support parents and guardians who might be struggling, who might be a little unaware, who mightn't really have that progressive, open-minded perspective because we live in a very, you know, close-minded, conventional, traditional society, a very patriarchal society, where homophobia is the norm, where we believe that, and the society feeds this to us, that being heterosexual is the norm and the way and the only and right way. And of course, the older generation, not to hold anything against them, not to hold anything against parents, because there are a lot of very open-minded liberal parents. Um, but this, we understand that from a socio-cultural perspective, that this is what they are fed, this is how they grew up, this is what they know. So the Stronger Families program is really there to give them support so they could come and really air out their concerns, because we understand that parents indeed would have some questions, they would have concerns, they might not understand what is the difference between sexual orientation and sexuality and gender identity. What is the difference between just being gay, homosexual, bisexual, queer, if they identify as such, pansexual even, because there are a lot of different um, uh, types of sexual orientations that someone can identify with. So the Stronger Families program is really there as a, think about it as a support group or a focus group for parents and guardians without the children and the kids being there. So they as well could have that safe space to speak and talk and air their concerns, all gearing towards a more healthy relationship, because that is what we really want to foster. We would like to foster healthier relationships within the family, healthier relationships among peers in schools, a healthier relationship, of course, within the wider public,
So,
relationships that we might have as citizens of
so
the
Miss
Union.
White, Miss White. So okay, so that actually sounds very very important because a lot of time parents, as you say, may not understand what the child is going through. Um, I'd like to just transition a little bit. The focus of the show is on bullying, and I know that you all did a lot of work in schools. You did a lot of research in schools, looking at issues such as how children treat each other and do they bully each other and what are their beliefs and so on. Um, and you mentioned, I know you told me off air that that was a study that's going to be released soon. But could you give me some of the preliminary findings from that?
Right. So I don't have the report right here in front of me. I should have, but sorry about that, I don't. But it will be available on our website when we do launch at the end of the month. But I was one of the researchers who went out into the field with the executive director, Mr. Jeremy Edwards. And we did a lot of the data collection and the data entry and so on. And what we noticed from last time that we had this National School Climate Survey, this is what it's called, the National School Climate Survey, we saw that a lot of persons were being a high percentage of persons were being bullied based on not only their sexual orientation, but also their perceived sexual orientation. And that's really important because then that leads to that whole idea of persons being bullied based on their gender identity, how they perform or enact themselves. Let's say, for example, um, if a young boy in school is acting too girly, or, and I say this in inverted commas, or not masculine or not manly or boyish enough, he would then get harassed. So what happened? You gay or what? Right? And a lot of people could identify, and sometimes they may not be. Sometimes that might not be their identity, but they harass based on perceived sexual orientation. So we saw that that happened a lot. And I think the viewers here could definitely say, yeah, they know of things like this happening within the family as well, right? So that happened a lot. Some of the other findings were that persons often throw around homophobic slurs if they're trying to tell someone that they're silly, they're foolish, they're stupid, they did something dumb. They would say, oh, you're gay, or you're this, or you're that, or whatnot. So homophobic slurs would also be thrown around as insults, not only to attack persons of alternative sexual orientations or of the LGBTI community, but also just to, bully and harass and put down. So we see a lot of that happening as well. There's also a lot of gender-based violence, and all this encompasses and falls under gender-based violence, especially when it comes to young girls. A lot of these young girls were not able to tell, when it comes to sexual abuse, the difference between um, being abused or it being normal, right? Or it being fine. They weren't able to even realize or figure out, was I really being abused? Did I really give consent? Because again, how society expects or frames gender identity for young girls is always to be very passive and accepting and so on, and for boys to be more aggressive and active and whatnot. So we saw a lot of that happening, a lot of gender-based violence, bullying based on perceived sexual orientation,
So,
as well
okay.
as on based on sexual
So
orientation.
that's those are some very interesting findings. I'd like to throw this last question across to Dr. Bisoon. On the organization's website, they have actually made it a priority to speak about comprehensive sexual education. Could you tell us why that was important to the foundation?
Well, I think it is important for youth to learn about sexual education from the right sources, to get it from the right source, rather than from hearing it from like their friends and get wrong information. So it is important that we put up on our website, we get legitimate information about sexual education, comprehensive sexual education. Put it on the website with the hope that youth would access it and learn the right way.
And why don't you remind us about the website address?
Right, so it's Silver Lining, SILVERLINING.TT.com.
So it was my pleasure and honor to have you on the show today. Thank you for all the very helpful information that you shared with us, and hopefully we can talk again in the future. All right.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks so much for the opportunity. It was really good to be here. And like I said, follow us, check out the website, but also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We have a really big social media presence, and you will hear a lot more about our work regarding comprehensive sex education, the launch of the survey, the Stronger Families programs, and other activists and advocacy work that we do. So yeah, stay tuned, and I hope that the viewers out there, or even persons who are struggling, could reach out to us, and we could actually start to help more persons and continue doing the support, the education, and the advocacy from the Silver Lining Foundation. Thank you.
So thank you to the representatives from the Silver Lining Foundation, Dr. Ashram Bisoon and Ms. Ronelle White. We're going to take a short break now. Please come back, join us as we conclude this episode of The Present Mind. There's no health without mental health. In today's fast-paced, stressful society, dealing with COVID and all the other pressures out there, it takes a toll on our mental health. My name is Dr. Shivan Mahabir, and I am a psychiatrist. And I would like you to join me on a television program called The Present Mind, where we look at the symptoms of common mental illnesses, and we help you to cope with it and to seek help. Join me, Dr. Shivan Mahabir, on The Present Mind, where we look at common mental illnesses and help you to live a happier, healthier life. We are on MCTV, Tuesdays 1:30 p.m. and Thursdays 1:30 p.m. See you then.